Then
Awesome. Thank you.
you are welcome, sir. And let's see here. Should be good. Excellent. Well, apologize for I was just a couple of minutes late, tardy getting in here today, but I did want to take you through um, what I understood were the requirements. I'm not going to have everything that you've requested to demo today, but I do have a lot. I should point out I am a cloud architect, but I'm a cybersecurity and compliance person. My SharePoint knowledge pales in comparison to even the weakest SharePoint person at Microsoft, so I'll apologize in advance for that. You've got a whole team here today. I did want to cover first and foremost that all of the Microsoft features you will see today are included with the purchase, which has already been made as of about 8 years ago. So everything you will see is freely available to you. I can't emphasize that enough, but I will. This is available to you at no cost, as in you own it. Secondly, SharePoint Online is software as a service. You are literally up and running in seconds, and I believe for these tenants, they'll be managed, maintained by the folks in Watech. So there's literally nothing to do. There's no hardware. There's no storage. There's no networking. It is software as a service. Third, you will see that as we look over the past like 3 years, Gartner is who most people leverage, and they have this thing called a magic quadrant. And in the magic quadrant is the upper right quadrant. You will see that we've made great progress in moving across that quadrant. So our ability to execute, is beyond reproach by any other vendor out there. And our vision is far better than any other vendor out there. And then as well that we integrate and have 400,000 partners that have points of integration with our products and services as well. Fourth, I don't know if I already mentioned this, but these solutions are freely available to you today at no cost, as in you own it. These were the questions you have. Scanning document capture, absolutely. We support all multi-function copiers, devices, Kofax, info image, wide variety of different solutions. Basically, any Twain compatible scanner, multifunction copier, multifunction printing device out there. There were questions about picture intake and apps, and yes, images and OCR. We do support both of those. We have our great capabilities with our Dynamics platform, our Power platform, our ability to build an application from a SharePoint library and include things like I was in Paradise, California, and taking pictures with investigators, fire damage. And they, on their mobile device, had picture, lat, lon, time, all of that information flowing from their mobile device right into a SharePoint. Was there a question? Thought I heard something there. All right. Existing docs, absolutely. And we do have iFilters for a wide variety. We do scan and index about 98.2, well, not about, exactly 98.2% of digital content in the world is scanned by our indexing engine. And for those files like a AutoCAD DWG file, that's not a Microsoft format or a Microsoft application, but we do have iFilters. So you could find a word within a diagram of a DWG file. So support from a couple of different, for picture intake on a phone or mobile device or image intake from a scanner multifunctional device. I didn't know which way that question was leaning. Existing docs, iFilters again. I worked with one customer and they uploaded 138 million paper documents, 138 million paper documents. And the beautiful thing is our categorization, labeling. We first built the taxonomy. Second, built the understanding of the forms. I'll show all this to you. It was a great demo at CES, good golly, 3-4 years ago. Consumer Electronics Show did a little demo there. I've got the screenshots of that demo. but they ingested 138 million documents. Those documents were categorized, classified, label protected. We used labels to preserve and protect content with either encryption or preservation policies. Keep this for 3 years, keep that for 5 years. And that was all done at the scanner level, as I'll show you in just a second. Electronic forms, absolutely. Now, some of my customers have replaced electronic forms with just libraries and lists. That they're just using the library or list. Worked with Indiana on this huge opioid crisis. They were the worst state in the United States for opioids. And they had a great granting application to grant agencies who had counselors who were counseling people with opioid crisis. And they could go out and again take a picture of the center and have the operator's name, the counselor's name, where they worked. They also partnered with the state of Indiana, or what was the Indiana states of Ohio, Kentucky, and Michigan bordering states, and Illinois to resolve this. So somebody from Illinois just over the border or just over the border in Ohio could go to a counselor in Indiana. Really cool little application, but all of that didn't really have any forms. It was a customized list library with a custom mobile app connecting to that list in a library. You can use InfoPath. InfoPath has now continued to be supported through 2023. You can use Word. I saw that the PDP form and the form we'll be working with today was a Word form, Adobe, and there are custom third-party form solutions like Nintex's forms and third parties that you can integrate. Digital signatures, DocuSign, Adobe's, and other. Yes, there's an audit trail, especially for auditing and alerting on not only workflow and workload tracking, but auditing activities that maybe a global admin or a manager would partake in. Integration with other databases and third-party applications. Yes, we have BCS business connectivity services and APIs for SharePoint. Again, they're about, well, I'll get to that in just a second. Redaction, we do have redaction in our advanced e-discovery capability, but there are a good number of third parties, and we can do redaction annotation inside of our browser, Edge. But there are great third parties like Teradact that not only do redaction, but they do tokenization, and we can actually tokenize a particular paragraph of a document, for example. So I could see that paragraph of the document, but maybe Steve Kirchhoff could not see that paragraph of that document. I will show you the locking on hold. Annotation again, I can use either the Edge browser to annotate, make notations, or mark up a document with a pen, or leverage again the solutions from Teradact. PDP, again, the main questions I saw in there: view all, historical, can we move those to a library? Yes, absolutely. Is there workflow supported? Reuse of workflow notifications, and manage the PDP process. SharePoint has a great following, 350,000 organizations, about 1 billion users out there in the world. And it's pretty incredible, the amount and the great success that SharePoint has had since its invention in 1999. Yeah, blah, 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 marketing slides. So this ingest, I mentioned this capability of forms and being able to scan, leverage these documents. This was a presentation from, good golly, 3 years ago. Any type of form that you have, we can custom create our metadata, our content within a SharePoint library, and you can see with this protection, this multifunction device, I could say, hey, scan, and put my 25 documents in the document feeder and scan these 25 documents. Down here where it says modified, I can create my own metadata and have metadata automatically populate. In this example, I've got a barcode that's going to go into a barcode field for this document library: customer name, account number, department, purchase order number. I've got a QR code, and then we typically request that you have a couple of anchors like our logo of Fabricam in the upper left hand. But these can be scanned, they can be OCR'd, they can be popped in the metadata for us to use. So with this form recognition, again, we can recognize the form, and we can walk through the form. It can be added as a PDF to the library. We can leverage the ISO XMP metadata. It can be used to construct the file name. So something that you scan in the file can be leveraged in the file name. It can populate the columns, as I mentioned, the metadata in a SharePoint library. It can be used for the path. So when I scanned this, if it's an invoice, it goes to SharePoint invoice library. If it's a HIPAA request, it goes to a medical records library. If it's a whatever, it goes to these things. And again, we can work and integrate. I used to have a nice little screenshot of our multifunction devices in the office. That would, when you hit the scanner, it knew who I was, Timon@Microsoft.com, and said, do you want to email these documents, or do you want to send them to your OneDrive, or do you want to send them to any one of these 3 SharePoint libraries? And ours just displayed the most recent 3. So if I was scanning my expenses for an expense report, it could kick it to an expense report folder, for example. This can be used for workflow. Not only where do I place this document, but then who's alerted and who's going to work on that file. It can also be used for that preservation and protection with a label to preserve and protect that content. And this is what that application looked like, bundled with one of the scanners, the ones that we used in our office anyway. So it had multifunction printers. Here's our application. What's the URL? What site should this go to, what folder, and in this case it was an invoice. And the column settings, you just basically say, hey, I want to scan SharePoint, and it populated customer name, invoice, purchase as the metadata that I created in my list. So when I'm scanning this file, I can say invoice, this is where the invoice is going to be, this field, and I draw a box over that thing and say that is where you're going to find the invoice, and it's a number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. If I have alpha and numeric, I can configure that as well. And then I can continue throughout the rest of my form saying, this is where the bill to is, and this could be handwritten or typed information in these forms. But I do need to have a couple of anchors in case this is skewed or twisted or shrunk or enlarged. These anchors, and it's always good to have one at the top and the bottom of the document, will adjust that scanning, especially if we're doing, not Siri, scanning, especially if we're scanning, tens of thousands or 50,000, 100,000 documents an hour. And then it will populate like this customer, Paragon Electronics, invoice, purchase order. It populated all that from the scan. And then I can sort, I can filter, I can index on these items, on this metadata that I have in my files. I can also, as I mentioned, preserve and protect and determine who can and who can't see these files when they are trimmed if somebody searches for, and I did include a great document in these slides that you will get as a follow-up to the content for trimming and securing this. I'm only using 2. I'm sorry with this COVID thing, and I didn't really have an opportunity to punch in on this project until Saturday. I also had a leaky rudder. It's a whole nother problem. So anyway, I've got a couple of people here, Megan Bowen and Harry Olds. I usually do my demos kind of sneakily. So Harry Olds is in operations, Nestor Wilkie is in water quality, Irv Sayers in infrastructure, Lydia Holloway is in health, just so I can remember. And Lydia in health and safety would only see health and safety docs. Harry Olds in operation would only see operation docs. Megan Bowen is a manager. She can access pretty much anything. So from that, what I wanted to take you into, and I mentioned I've got a couple of different personas here. So this is Megan Bowen. And when Megan Bowen goes to see her reviews, these are going to be security trimmed. So again, and I could set a default here. So if Megan isn't the manager, the only files that Megan is going to see, the only PDP docs Megan is going to see are those that she has privy to. She won't see anything else. When I bop over to Harry Olds here, I'll even take this out, go one step further, Harry Olds is going to get, nuts, I didn't want to click on that. Harry Olds is going to see documents that are shared with him, documents, maybe alerts on a file. Hey, a new file has arrived in this folder and it requires you to work upon it. So that workflow is going to fire and kick off to Harry. And Harry will see that workflow and then be able to respond to it. When Harry comes to SharePoint, Harry is very limited. The only thing he does see is this one folder, and within it our DOR PDP process. And when Harry comes here, he only sees Julie, and sorry for using your name without ask Julie, but I did see you on the invite here. So he only sees Julie's and my PDP documents. But again, I'm seeing all of the metadata here. What is the purpose of this? What last name, first name, all of that flowed right from the form to the metadata. And then again, now I can sort on this content. Isn't tough with 2 things, but 2,000 things might be something that you want to sort or filter on. So I could filter on these items and apply a filter to limit this even further. So this is a beautiful, beautiful capability of leveraging metadata that was entered once in a form, now in a SharePoint list or library, and I can see who the supervisor is, what the review date was, when the next review date is. And I even have a thing called upcoming, so I can see my upcoming all items or upcoming or just my reviews here, which is nice. Now, when Megan comes in, as I mentioned, she is a manager. And I'm sorry I didn't have enough time to do cleanup here before bouncing into this presentation. I've kind of been racking and stacking all day today. But she comes to SharePoint now. She sees some other sites, but when she comes into this PDP, DOR PDP document library. And again, this might be the only thing. If this is all she does, and she can see upcoming, or she can see her reviews that she's got. So now we don't see Julie or Tom, but we see the other items here. And she could click on one of these and open that, and you're going to get a view into the document inside of Word Online. But if she needs to edit this, and this might be a little sneaky here, I'm going to edit in the desktop app. You can edit in the browser or edit in the desktop app. I have Megan's. Nope. I copied and pasted something for a previous customer. Let me bounce over here. None of your users have to deal with this whole, today you're seeing me logged in as Megan Bowen. I'm Tom Moen on this machine. It's domain joined. None of your end users will have the schizophrenia that I do as Megan and Harry and Tom and a Microsoft Timon at Microsoft.com. But here in this stupid world in which I'm trying to be different people and use different browsers and use different things without using different browsers, you can see I already got an alert here fired off upon a change on one of my records. But I can grab, let's just grab Megan Bowen's. I apologize for this. I can't remember what stupid tenant this is. Where are you, Megan Bowen? So I'm going to copy her ID here. Apologize for that. Bounce over to Word really quickly. Oh, shoot. Now it's going to ask me for... all right. Woohoo! Glad it first time through it prompted me for multi-factor auth, which is great because it didn't recognize this machine. I had conditional access set up. It didn't recognize this machine, didn't recognize it coming in through this machine. So it prompted me for multi-factor auth and sent that to my phone. But here I can see all these properties, and I can, of that, it's connecting right now to the SharePoint repository. And if I'm more of a list filler, I could come through here and fill out these items. They will flow into the document and flow back to the SharePoint repository. So this is a really cool capability, and I do have things like the date pickers here, so I can pick a date here if I so desire. I'm not going to save any of these changes, but this is your form. I just simply added as a template. I added the metadata that I thought was important here. We could have the full performance review all as metadata, in which case you might not even need the form. At Microsoft, we don't use the forms anymore. We just fill out the metadata, and the metadata becomes the form. Yes, it does flow into a template for print, but our signatures are digital signature. And again, you can use DocuSign, you can use Adobe, you can use any wide variety of folks to capture digital signatures. We have a thing where it just says, hey, type your name, Thomas J. Moen, to say that you've signed this. And I type my name, Thomas J. Moen, and it shows that I've signed the document and I accepted it. You also asked about, and I did put Harry Old's reviews on Legal Hold. I've got Harry Old's, maybe he's involved with some type of investigation or something that's going on. So when I bop over to Harry Old's in another browser window and look at these things and go to Julie's document or my document, could have done either one. You will see that this document, again, it's brought up into Word, but now if I go to edit that document, it's going to honk at me and tell me, hey, this is on hold. Sorry, we're locked. We can't edit this document right now. So it's a beautiful, beautiful thing that A, I'm getting that warning. B, I'm preserving that document and locking that document down. Now, how did that happen? Well, that happened because we're using a classification inside of our protection. Yeah, it's this menu. I can close some of these. Sorry, I had to do another last-minute demo in between us here today. So I'm using classification of content. Now, within Office 365, what I can do and what you should do, HR records, how long do you keep those PDPs for? Do you have a set time for those PDPs for retention? This would be the interactive portion of our program.
This is Annika. I believe it's 3 years.
Perfect. So I'm going to create a new retention policy that says PDP 3 year. And I could be more descriptive here if I so desire. And then I'm going to say for this long, 3 years from when it was created, or I don't know, maybe you do it from modified. We'll just go ahead with created. Do you want us to delete it after that time? You can say yes, or you can leave it in place. Now, a deletion policy, this is just basically purge policy. After 3 years from when it was created, we're just going to go ahead and delete it. Anything can happen to this file between now and 3 years. It can be deleted, it can be replaced, it could be whatever. But in this case, we're going to say we're going to keep this for 3 years, and then we're going to delete. So it will be absolutely preserved for 3 years and then kept. We're not going to do this. Maybe we email these things. I could exclude email. I could do SharePoint, and I could come in here and say, hey, it's just this site, this one particular site, and since I have it opened here, that we're applying this retention policy to, right? So I could say, hey, it's just this site. Or I could say, hey, it's going to be all SharePoint sites here, right? So when I'm done with that, I've got a 3-year retention on all SharePoint sites, or just this particular PDP site to retain content for 3 years, or retain and then purge content for for 3 years.
Is that purge sent through a workflow approval process, or is it just happening?
Good God, what a great question. Yes, there are dispositions and there are disposition reviews, and we can create a workflow to say, first I want records to acknowledge this can be disposed, then I want HR, then I want legal, and then we will purge this content. Super great question. So that's what this disposition is for, and you can create events around these. So I could say I created a retention policy, and one of the things that Tom was an idiot and glanced over was in my settings. Let's just open one that I already had here, which is already a 3-year retain. And this was for email only. But again, what I could do here is say that I'm going to keep this content for 3 years. Oh shoot, there was a little advanced button here and it's not showing up in this one. But had I not picked that, you might have seen there was an advanced, and under advanced, I could say retain this for a set period of time based upon an event, like a city that I work with, when they go out to a bond referendum and get funding, and let's say they're building a new footbridge. We just built one here on the island. That footbridge, when it first takes the first bicycle, skateboard, or foot traffic, that all those contracts and things have to be held for 100 years after that first traffic on that bridgeway, sidewalk, road, whatever it is. So that would be an event. 100 years past the opening of this thing, we're going to keep that record. So these events, and you can get very granular. And if you have a file plan as a component of your record plan, you can even import those labels or export those labels. And I know that WATEC, again, has been doing a great job on looking at these labels and creating labels for other divisions and departments. If you're in the shared tenant, you will see those labels and you can accept those labels and determine when you automatically apply a label. And again, these labels will preserve or protect content. Or you can decide not to use those. And the other really nice thing here is that if you rolled out of the tenant, I have one large state and they have 2 very big departments, about 38,000 users that are rolling out of a shared tenant. Their central Department of Technology went in and said, I want to take these 5 policies that are for this department and export them. They moved into their new tenant. They imported those labels. Bada bing, bada boom, they're done. And those labels and those policies of when and where those labels applied right to their SharePoint, Exchange, OneDrive, Teams, all of that automatically. So this information governance and records management capabilities are extremely powerful above and beyond the workflow, retention, and capabilities that you would have inside of SharePoint. Now, all of that said, there's yet a third method, and that is individual classification. And we have 2 types of classification. Again, protection, which we would use a sensitivity label to protect with encryption. And I've got your category 1, 2, 3, and 4 from Washington State in here already. And they're already applied to particular areas to protect with encryption. It doesn't matter if this is category 4 data and I have it in SharePoint. I can copy category 4 data, put it on USB sticks, and drop it from an airplane. I could drop 5 million USB sticks across the state of Washington. It would be very environmentally damaging, but I could do that and nobody would access that data unless they had A, permissions to that data, B, were in Active Directory, and C, were either a enabled, not disabled, or active user in AD. It doesn't matter where that data goes. It could go in Box, it could go in Dropbox. It's going to be protected with the highest military grade encryption available. 50,000 lifetimes it would take a team to decrypt the content with our military AES 256-bit encryption. So again, I can say, hey, maybe this document library with these PDP performance plans is category 4 data. So I'm going to protect that and preserve it with category 4 protection. These labels can be manually applied. semi-automatically applied, or manually applied. In the automatically applied category, I can say based upon the content, whoever created it, and again, I can also preserve this content. So it might be outside of that document library. Maybe I moved a PDP file outside of that document folder. So in this case, a retention label will preserve and protect that content for 3 years, and by encrypting it and preserving it for 3 years if it's moved outside of the folder that it was originally preserved and protected in. So when I'm back here at this folder, when I go into my library settings here, you will see that I do have apply a label. This is where, and this is included in your E3. This does not require E5. This is not an automatic labeling, but I could say, hey, if we were talking to DSHS and Aging and Adult Services, I could say this is an Aging and Adult Services. I'm going to retain this because it's a medical contract in a assisted living home for 7 years. I could pick that label and say yes and apply this to existing content in the library. Now that content is going to be preserved for 7 years, protected with encryption, no matter where it goes. But this is automatically going to apply to everything in this document library. And again, I had different labels in here. I was doing a demo for the FAA, the Federal Aviation Administration, and I had all sorts of different labels in there. That would be a automatic label. That label is going to apply to everything in this document library. From a manual, and then if I wanted to protect this further as well, I do have information rights management settings, and this also applies to Teams and also applies to OneDrive because those are nothing more than SharePoint document libraries. But I do have information rights management, and I can further secure and trim and block capabilities in this document library of our PDP records, right? And I can say, hey, you've got to verify your credentials every day. You've got to either be inside or VPN connected, especially in this remote working world that we're in, to gain access to this. Or maybe I only allow, maybe I've got workflow. When me as a person being reviewed, I work on my performance review, it's in this folder. It's not preserved, it's not protected, doesn't have any label applied to it, maybe doesn't have any retention. When I click submit, or when I'm done with my part of my PDP, it goes into the managers. It goes into my manager folder using the people. I put supervisory people and use the people, and I can say everybody who works for me, their PDPs go into this folder. And only I can see them, and then now they have rights on them, and only I can get to those once they are done. Now this is within SharePoint. So again, you have the all-encompassing privacy labels and preservation labels, and then you have the individual capabilities that you have within SharePoint to go above and beyond based upon the location. And we do have simple permissions for a document library, and we can trim those permissions as well. And I did show you again, when Harry goes in, he only sees his 2 employees. When Megan goes in, she sees all of her employees. Again, and because Megan is a manager, she can use this all items. Now I could just say my reviews and Megan would only see her reviews, but I could also say, you know, all, because she's a department manager, I want to see Harry, Irv, Miriam's, everybody's things. Now Harry doesn't even have the all items, and he doesn't have the by date. He just has upcoming and my reviews. So again, you could even specify which views of this data people are privy to. And again, if I had a scanner connected to my machine right now via USB, I would see a scan button here or under the ellipse, and I could scan this file, these files in. If we want to move to a mobile world and I want to build this application and create it into a mobile application, I simply customize the form here in our Power Platform with Power Apps. And this will bring up the form. There's going to be a lot of metadata and a lot of items here. Not the most I've ever seen. Our water quality assessment, which I can show you as a better proof of demo. But this is pulling now all the metadata from my SharePoint repository and putting it on a workplace for me to use in the event I want to create a mobile application. And this is absolutely zero code. Any Power worker should be able to build this out. But again, I could pick all of my fields here. I can pop those fields on the display. I can determine where they are. And when I'm done with that, I can run and test this, and it will pop up here. You know, again, you can see my pick list, and I can put in my last name, first name. I can't even spell my own name today. It's been such a crazy week. Thank God it's Friday, eh? All of my fields would populate, and I can drag on this application and have my review date, first name, last name, employee number, all of those things that I have. I can create a second screen that is just where I would put my performance notes. I don't see anybody really filling this out on a mobile application, probably a horrific example that I'm using here, but just know that clicking that is just one step away. Being able to run that in a mobile first, cloud first world. You do see Automate here, and with Power Automate, we do have workflows. So I do want to point out that I can go into this library, and out of the box, I have the ability to create and build workflows here. So I can build, manage, and maintain workflows. So I had a couple of here, that one that just acted on a document. I can build a new workflow. I can remove, block, or restore a workflow. I can determine what type of workflow I'm building here. And again, when I drop a document or build a new document or create a new document in this folder, the workflow is automatically going to fire. So this workflow will fire, people will be notified, steps will be taken, approvals will be routed, etc. If I need to get significantly more robust and have a very robust workflow, I can go into Power Automate and create a flow. And you will see these flows. There are numerous templates. There are literally thousands of templates that are already pre-built for you out on GitHub. So I can see more templates. I can grab more templates. I can leverage these templates for workflow that have already been created. And you're seeing I created this new document. It fired, hey, Megan, you've got a task assigned to you. So Megan can pop out here from that toast that popped up on her screen, just from that new document. I could click review the document. Of course, I didn't make any edits to that document. And then I could say, and look, I've already got another label applied to this. This is attorney-client privilege. Maybe I've had a performance review and we've made an update to this because I've had a issue going on, but I could review the document. I can approve the document. I could, again, have that document marked for attorney. And again, I apologize for being nuts. I forgot I copied that darn list. But anyway, you're seeing the power of this, and you're seeing this happen and fire and flow automatically with these flows. But again, I can create a Power Automate a flow based upon existing flows in my organization. I can customize, I can create a flow, I can build this flow and have it notify people, fire off a workflow, request manager approval. So again, just by clicking that submit button, when I finish my PDP document, I submit, boom, I use this flow to request. Megan is notified, Megan gets my request, Megan approves the document, it goes to her manager. Maybe I'm going to get a great big fat raise because I did such an awesome demo, never happens. It would go to that my grand boss, and my grand boss would approve that. So this is just the way this works. No, there are third parties in here. Like if maybe we need to do something, I need to keep this performance review for 10 years after an employee leaves. I can have another workflow, and then we have a great solution in here for contracts, contract management solution. And there are, again, 400,000 partners that build third-party, really cool solutions. And you could leverage any one of them if you had an amazing, very robust alerting and workflow. There are these third-party solutions that integrate into SharePoint to go above and beyond the capabilities that workflow within SharePoint offer. One step above that would be the flow. One step above that would be these third-party capabilities that you can add. And in this case, it was notify me in 1 year from a contract signature. So that's what that Verto workflow was there. I used Verto as a third party because they've got this whole contract management, and it just works really good for an alerting workflow. And I'm going to pause and hesitate there for any questions, and maybe ask if this is what you were hoping to see today.
I've got kind of a specific case with that PDP. It's going to go through its workflow. Everybody's going to sign it, and then it's going to go into the quote personnel file where it can't be edited or changed or deleted.
Yep.
Or anything. And then we might have to. Okay, so that's one question. It seems like you accomplished that. Yeah, I'm mixing my questions. Is there like a file import ability where a folder has documents in it every once in a while? They come through SFTP or something. Can it like pull that folder and import those documents into a workflow? And it's kind of on the opposite side, the export. Say that employee whose personnel file's in the system, we need to export that personnel file and send it to their new job agency. Those were kind of and you said everything was free, so that third-party solution is free too, right?
They do. That was a super good catch. Thank you for keeping me honest. They do absolutely. I did create my new folders here. They do absolutely have like. Oh, that's why, because I wasn't showing all items. So I absolutely could create like staging and have new items come in here. And I called it staging. I'm sorry, that's probably a stupid name. And then export for a new department. So I could say, Kirchhoff is being transferred to Nome, Alaska. So I could have my workflow, and you will see this here. That there used to be compliance. I think we put it in this little task pane here. So I could also use these labels for a workflow, or I could use any one of the fields for a workflow. So I could choose a label like transferred, and then that would kick that up to export for new department. If I know Steve's new manager in Nome, Alaska, maybe I could have a field that says, the new manager's name, and it would route them to that specific folder. And that's all included in. And you don't have to use Verto. I used Verto for this very specific example of these contracts and notifications and contract management, but you do not have to use Verto. 99% of they probably have about 1% of the market share customers out there. I did want to make that clear. Go ahead.
Okay. So on the forms, can you do DB lookups like hey, you type in the employer or the employee number and it fills in the name and all those other things from a database?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Okay. And I did want to point out, look at this activity also came along, everything that I've done here in this document library, because you asked about auditing and audit trail, and all of this activity is also kept in an audit, but all of this could be wrapped up and then kicked out to somebody as well. Or it could be kicked to a SIM like our Sentinel solution, because all of this has an API on it. Now, to answer that other question, like these rows of columns of data here, and now you're seeing them. Now, let's say, so I was working with Pioneer Seed, and they make seed, and they had all these tests out in the field. And like a farmer, if you drive past a farmer field, it would say like Pioneer 1057, and I always have to say it with an accent, Pioneer 1049. And that, I don't know if that's more Indiana, Iowa accent. But anyway, they would have these different rows of corn, and some of them gigantic, and some of them kind of skimpy, scroungy looking corn ears, and some of them huge nuclear, some kind of nuclear fertilizer on those things. So they would go out and measure, every day. It's, 3 feet 1 inch, 3 feet 1.25 inches. And they had this great big form, and I was like, well, these are the things you're measuring. Let's just put them as a list. So in this list, they had, like here, your position, class, title, and then they had a capability. Now, we do have the import from a spreadsheet, just like we can export this to an Excel sheet. We could import from an Excel sheet. That's launching any day now, literally any day now. But I can create this metadata, these columns. And getting back to this Pioneer Seed, they threw their form away, because all they wanted was what size is the corn on what date, right? And who did the survey, who did the measuring, who did the whatnot, right? So that's all they kept. They got rid of the form. Very similar in this water district demo. When I look at the operations here, and again, Harry Olds would see this folder, and Megan, since she's the manager, and I am just going to get rid of this information on the side here. But we've got a file here, and I've got this this document, and it tells me this is the Campbell pump station, and that and this form has a lot of information on it. What they did, instead of filling out this form, they converted this to a library, and they would just have this information going across here vertically in the list, instead of having this form that they printed and saved, and then they could just print or export the list at a particular point in time, and then save that as a record, which is a really kind of cool thing. And I will see the version history on this file, so maybe if there was a screw up or an issue here, I can still restore this, and I'll be replacing version 1.5 with 1.4, which will now become 1.6. Who's on first, what's on third, I don't know. Anyway, and again, I could come in here, like if that were really bad, that version 5, and I can say if I have the rights to delete that version, if there was a significant error in there, and I don't have rights to delete a file. Miriam, my manager in this scenario, if I was doing the full scenario here, would have that. But we are capturing this information and feeding that information direct into the metadata. So I can find a file and find content related to these files very, very quickly and easily, leveraging that metadata. And this metadata, again, working with that customer, that was like a 2-week project that I was on, again, back in 2017. But they had these files and capabilities here that, and I know I kind of went through this really quickly once before. Yeah. So taking that metadata and putting it as a taxonomy in the SharePoint site, and I think I'm going to get prompted for my Megan's username again here in a second. Yeah, gosh darn it. Hopefully, nope. Let me grab Megan's name. I apologize for having a schizophrenic tenant here. Which one did I see? These are my alerts on that document with the new workflow. And Megan Bowen, copy her UPN. You won't ever have to do this, nor will your users. I apologize for not being able to have a machine that's just dedicated to Megan Bowen. Oh. Megan Bowen is a real person at Microsoft, and I've proposed to her because I thought it'd be cool if she was Megan Bowen Moen, but she's not accepted my proposals yet. So again, these properties, and this was very robust. Like if this were a report, you know, what is the site name? You can see I had to enter all of this stuff in. We could have pulled this, and I did pull it from an Excel spreadsheet. Some of these things popped in from an Excel spreadsheet, but if it was El Capitan, I could have that there. This one was Campbell. What is the type of this document? It's a report, it's a permit, it's a whatever. What folder is that? And I can copy and paste that folder in. So once I click save, it will be routed to that folder. And anything that I'm changing in these properties can also appear again as content within the body, and that these properties can be filled via the scanning solution as well. So making a round robin solution there, I scan the file, it captures the information, pops it in the metadata, pops it in the SharePoint list. And again, getting back to the, you know, like us at Microsoft, our performance reviews, now they're called connects, our performance reviews, there isn't even a form. We type in on a SharePoint list, we click submit, our managers approve it. And again, if there's a change in grade or pay or something, it goes to their manager for approval. And then at the end, I think there is a form, but that data just goes into a form. It's printed out with our signatures, electronic signatures on it for HR. And then it's retained in HR for 10 years. But all of those things, that workflow and all of that stuff is done for, you know, 150,000 Microsoft employees through SharePoint.
Hey, Tom, I have a question.
Sure.
Can you do security trimming on columns, i.e. can you make some of the metadata not visible if it contains sensitive information that some people are not supposed to see?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can make anything and everything available or not available, you know, from that individual file level all the way down to the metadata within the files as well. And I also trimmed, yeah, when I looked at Harry. So let's go back in here to DOR. When I go into DOR as me, Megan, and I pop into my all items, not just the two that I have to do, but my all items, you can see all of this metadata, right? When I kick over as Harry, and again, sorry for all these massive changes and rigmarole here. Look at that. I don't have all the metadata, right? All I've got is last name, first name, review date, and me as a supervisor. And when I look at these fields as these columns of data, and I can add, if I have the rights, I can add another column here, location, number, name, person. Person is going to be like my UPN, my user principal name here. And there's much, much more. And again, you can create any taxonomy that you so desire. So when I'm back here in my library settings, shoot, I have to do this as Megan. Sorry. See, I even forget who I am sometimes. I heard somebody yelling Harry Olds in the airport and said yes one day. So I'm going to go to my library settings. And here we are. And here are all my columns. And if I'm going to create a column, I can create whatever that column is. And it can be multiple choice, a number, currency, date, time, a lookup. So I can look this up from metadata or information that's already on this site, or from that scanning application, or from a column. Yes, no, checkbox, all of these types of metadata. And again, if I do something like, you know, yes, this is a person or a group, how I would trim this. And it can be a person or a group. So if only the legal team should see this information. Person or group. How come my person or group is not coming in here? Curious. I did pick person or group. Just going to go off of that field and let it rewind. Huh. Oh, duh. What an idiot. So I can pick, if I'm picking a group, I can say, you know, this group, owner, visitors, members, can view this information or not view this information. I should also have a field here for just picking a person. Require this column. Unique values. Multiple selection, no. Huh. Choose from. I should have a field with just a user here. So anyway, apologize for that. I'm going to go back. I'm going to show you the one that I did create. Which was supervisor people. That's all the more clever I was today. Name with presence. Huh. Oh, duh. Tom's an idiot. I apologize. It has been a very long week and weekend. So when I'm editing this data, and this is the other reason why I was using that Pioneer Seed example, we do have this capability to export to Excel or import to Excel. We do also have this thing called quick edit here. So when I'm looking at, oh, I didn't want to go back. When I'm looking at, and let's just go to my reviews and say that I'm going to quick edit this, I can see I used the people name with the other field there. So this is where I'm picking a person from the pick list. So Miriam, if I'm picking Miriam Graham, that's where I'm picking from that pick list. And this was Harry Olds. And again, Megan can see Harry's content as well as her own content here. But you will see in this quick edit, I can edit these things very quickly and then exit the quick edit here. Or if you want to do it the long-about way, you can export to Excel and then re-import to Excel. So maybe if there was a column field, you know, maybe if I add one here, you know, that is a level increase or promotion, and I say promotion, yes, no, then I don't want to have that here. Only for managers, I can edit that as quick edit, you know, yes, no, in the quick edit, which is really a nice feature as well. And then I might want to route those again to my manager for approval on those promotions. Hope that answered the question, but you're very flexible information here with these rows and columns of data. And again, you know, like in this case, gosh, in the form, I accidentally picked the purpose. I didn't have the last names of these folders. Well, they don't have last names, but if I had a purpose called staging or a folder name here, I could pop those in via the quick edit. What else? Any other questions that you might have?
This is Heidi. I have a question that was from really early on, and maybe you answered it and I just didn't capture it. But the, you know, SharePoint ECM as a solution, that you had a slide that listed all the scanning, you know, scanning dot captured, yes, picture intake and apps, yes, etc. My question is, for all those capabilities, is that all built in, or were some of those capabilities requiring additional software solutions to interface with SharePoint to do that?
Yeah, so some of them, you know, most of the multifunction copy or multifunction printers already work with SharePoint, and there are solutions like Kofax that you might be using, or Info Image that you might be using, or some other scanning OCR solution. Those integrate with SharePoint as well. If you don't own those, you probably don't need them, but if you do own them, you might as well use them, so they're there. The only bit of tricky bit, and the only thing out of all your requirements that I could see requiring a third party was really for the tokenization, redaction, and annotation. And again, there are a number of parties like SilverCloud, Teradact, that add into SharePoint. But other than that, everything you have should work out of the box and allow you those capabilities.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And I did. Go ahead.
Can I clarify on that?
Yep.
There's no annotation or redaction capability out of the box. Is that true?
There are through the browsers, and so like with Edge, I have annotation and capabilities. I don't have redaction. Yes, okay. The only redaction that you would have is when we move into now I'm going to export content, because we're going to say, hey, those people who can see this can see this. But when we move into like e-discovery and having to produce content and produce a case or litigation materials, now other people, like I'm going to send this to public records, I'm going to send this to external lawyers, I'm going to send this outside of the organization. And in this case now, I am going to have annotation and redaction capabilities with advanced e-discovery. So when I come in here to this item, I can have it tagged, I can have it annotated. I'm going to just move this over. We don't need the query. So I can tag this. And then if I said, whoa, man, this is top secret, they can't know that we were in conference room we're near, I can go into the annotation view and I can redact that information out. I can annotate with a pencil and circle information. So this is that redaction. I can grab that and say, hey, that nobody should know that this occurs every Thursday, or I didn't grab the redaction tool here. They shouldn't know that this occurs every Thursday from 5 to 7:30 p.m. So that's redacted. Now, because I'm a manager, I can see through that redaction, but if Harry Olds or somebody else came in here, they are going to see that information with the black boxes around it, just like that. And you can change the color of that. So if there's
that's an extra cost.
Well, this is in advanced e-discovery, which I know you folks are investigating, and advanced e-discovery can be purchased a la carte or within the E5 suite.
Okay.
Great question. And again, if I have different reasons for redacting different content, this is still going to be a solid color here, but I can say, hey, maybe this is HIPAA and not PII. I can redact with a different color. So I, as a reviewer of this content, and I should be doing this on a larger monitor, and there are other things I can do here, like compare documents that are very similar. I can look at a threaded conversation. If there are near duplicates, it brings up a very much Word reviewing pane with documents side by side, so you can see and highlight exactly what has changed. But again, this is your annotation and redaction view before producing or exporting or saving this out as a PDF file, redacted, so people cannot view that content. And we do also integrate with Adobe for their annotation and redaction as well. I just mentioned Teradact because they're a great partner, and they have this additional feature of tokenization that, again, by default, I can say that, Kirchhoff can't see paragraph 3 on page 1 and Carson can't see paragraph 5 on page 3. So they can tokenize a document, and you can do some of that with the reviewing capabilities that you have in Word, but they have a very robust, and I know it's used by the many agencies in the federal government. So let's see here. I'm going to bounce back into a slide view here really quickly. Probably some things I didn't show, like, again, I can have things like my sites where I want to save this. So if I'm working on a performance review, that PDP, and I'm in Word, I can pick my site and then just actually save that right to that site, name it and save it right to the site. I got my metadata, I already showed that. And it will tell me if I didn't fill out the required properties. It's showing me, hey, these are required properties. I'm not going to save that until you complete those required properties. So you can make properties required or not. You basically have any metadata in there. You will see that document, you will see that metadata, whether it's input from scan, but this is showing, this is the repository I saved to, this was the document that I saved, this was the metadata that I was forced to enter before I saved, and then I can edit this again in Word or edit it in the browser. I can upload very large files. I had some large images up to 20 gig. In there, if you are using recognition, I've got versionings, I can modify that metadata. I can use and copy content based upon metadata. So that was showing basically, again, I can based upon this metadata changing from in progress to complete, it would move from a staging to a completed file. Etc. So you can have those types of things. I can filter on the content. Again, based upon who you are, you may or may not be able to see content. This was that workflow. Here's a document waiting for approval. And not only do you see the document as I did as Megan Bowen, but a quick approve right in email. So, my manager's manager approved my raise, boom, can get to it right from email. Doesn't have to go look out the doc, just knows Tom's a super fantastic guy, approve that raise. And then Irv would even get the, yep, this was approved by you. So you have that chain of custody of a chain of action, I should say. And then the file moved off from Irv's work to another site. I can share stuff. I can move things. Again, I can see that something was shared. If it was shared internal, if it was shared external, I can apply rights. We do have OCR again, so I can index Adobe PDFs and scanned items. I can share externally if you so desire. What specific people can they edit or just view this? And that can be any email address external. They can have a Yahoo, AOL. Somebody just gave me an AOL address the other day. So you can share that. This is what it looks like. I receive a document. It's been shared with me. I get a code in my inbox to verify that I own that mailbox. I copy that code. I paste that code. Boom. I've opened up the cover. And again, that if I make changes, that will be included in the version history. I can remove sharing at any given time. Tom leaves the organization that you're collaborating with. You can remove that. I do see, again, my chain of action here on the right. And again, I can reverse or rescind any of those actions. So then when Tom goes to that document again, it's been removed from Tom's access. The workflow is very simple. Again, I can have a multi-state approval, and this is all I created in that one, a 3-state workflow. And out of the box in SharePoint, no third party required. Who's going to receive this? Who's going to act on it? And then you can view and monitor that workflow. And I've had customers who built out very cool systems to say like, oh, here's 100 documents that we've got to work on that we scanned yesterday. 40 of them are going to go to person A, 30 of them to person B, 30 of them to person C. Person C went on vacation or was sick for 3 days this week, didn't get done. I'm going to reassign that work to person B and person A. Person B was mostly done, so I'm going to give 75% of person C's undone work to person B and 25% or 8 documents to person A in that workflow. And again, I can see this workflow history. When did it start? What tasks were completed and by whom and when? And then I can, this is generated in tasks, and these tasks can go to your tasks inside of Outlook. So if you're an old dog like me and you don't even want to go to SharePoint, I can still view these workflow tasks inside of Outlook. So we got about 17 minutes left, I believe. I want to leave time for Q&A. Again, you can have alerts when anything changes, when somebody changes something, send a notification immediately. It generally generates a lot of spam. So I can say, just get me a daily summary. These are all the things that changed. Send me a weekly summary. This is everything that changed this week. So these alerts are outside of the workflow alerts, but you can create alerts. And in this case, again, I used a third party. You could do this on your own. But in this case, these folks really wanted to use a true contract management solution. So I deployed Verto. We do have a contract management solution accelerator, and this is available for free. I think this would have satisfied 99% of their requirements, but I did go to the Verto. Again, if I was just searching for C1137 inside of this scanned document, it will find and will highlight that when I go to search or index items. If I do create a hold and hold content in that SharePoint site, or particular files that have a preserve or a query-based hold upon them, it's going to lock them from editing, as I showed. And then you're just seeing a bunch of different notifications there. System-wide holds, I think I did a good job on that, and that is done. And that what we've gone through is a day's worth of work in about 90 minutes. Now, in the remaining 15 minutes, what questions do you have for me?
Hey, Tom, this is Bill. I want to touch on a couple of the functionality bullet points
Sure.
that were in Ryan's email. And one of them, I believe he mentioned here, goes to the electronic signature, digital signature.
Yep.
So maybe you can talk about, well, here's for just internal signature, internal approvals, and that sort of thing. And then also address, well, what if you really need to sign a document like a contract that's binding electronically, and whether or not we would need third-party tools for either of those scenarios.
Yeah, and I'm not a lawyer, and Masila would really cringe at me giving somebody advice on when and what you need. But there are great third parties like DocuSign and Adobe that do allow for the digital certificate. True AuthentiSign, I think, is another one. So you've got DocuSign, Adobe, AuthentiSign. There are a number of these third parties, but DocuSign does do a great job of integrating right in with SharePoint. Wow, this is probably a great little video. I can send you this link as a follow-up. But your form is in Word or it's in a PDF. It's stored in SharePoint. It would have those capabilities. So I guess there's Word, SharePoint. There we go.
And we're finding, everybody working at home now.
Yeah.
It's kind of a big deal.
Yeah. So DocuSign is one of those partners. They've been a great partner. I know they're already working. Maybe Carson can speak to some of the other customers that they're working with. But that's who we use internally. I don't know if I should say that, but again, from the, Thomas J. Moen, type your name here to agree that you've, watched this compliance training, to the true DocuSign, sign this document that you've changed your contribution to 401k information. So, and there are literally hundreds of these folks out there. I just know that Adobe, DocuSign, and AuthentiSign are the three that I kind of hear the most. What else?
And so that covers the binding contract, and then I think you're going to get to the just internal signature approval process. Ryan is done with his PDP and he just wants to sign off on it, or Ryan is correcting his timesheet, or Bill is just wants to give approval for purchase of a new stapler, that sort of thing.
Yep.
Can you tell us how that would work?
Yeah, I think what most folks do, and what Microsoft does, is we do just create a new, and I didn't have to go the roundabout it this way, but creating a new column, and it's like signature. And we're going to go with a single line of text. I think I would do this probably with managed metadata, and I would have the names. Oh yeah, I didn't update this. I would have the names of the employees or the names of people. Like my name is Thomas J. Moen. So I have to type, it says, please type your name, and then it shows Thomas J. Moen. And then I type in Thomas J. Moen, and then it allows me to sign that document. So this is where I would grab that managed metadata. I don't think I had name in here. But there is a complete taxonomy. Here was one for the Department of Environmental Quality. They had a large underground storage tank. They weren't attracted to somebody. I always have to point that out. But in this document library, and I don't know, here's a good one with people, department, job title, location. I could have full legal name in here as well. So under people, legal name, and then say, hey, I need this when somebody types in their legal name to match the full legal name field before I can accept that as a signature. So that's just one way of doing that. Probably 10 ways to resolve that issue, but that would be one way, using managed term set or managed metadata.
And the logging around that would, prove that I wasn't signing for Ryan because I'm Craig.
Yeah, and I mean, so there is modified, right? So that would be the other thing, and you could tie those two together. So when you're looking at that list and you're looking at who modified the document, so when I've typed my name in there, and you could tie those two together with a nice easy script, but I can see, Harry modified this one and Megan modified that one. And I would even see, when or what time Harry modified that item as well. So, and then if I needed additional auditing, and I didn't really show you this too much, but you can come in, and then what I always recommend through our search in our audit log search is that you do kick these audit logs out. But I can search in here, and I can search for, and this is an audit log, because again, with great power comes great responsibility. I can look at all of these SharePoint. So sharing activities, I thought they were all under SharePoint. Who accessed a file, who changed a file, who checked out a file, discarded a file, downloaded a file, moved a file, copied a file. All of these folder activities, SharePoint list activities, created an item, modified an item, changed an item. So I could say, when did Tom sign his document? So I could come in here and look at, all of the lists that were created, content types, anything that was changed or modified, anything that was updated, etc. So once I pick all of these things, and I don't know how many of them will actually fire off on things that I've done in the last couple of days, but it will take all of those, and then I can export this, or again, have this automatically exported out to an item. So here, Harry, here's his IP address. Harry modified this, created a list. Here's where the list was created, and on what day, date, and time from what IP address. Woohoo! Now how much would you pay? You don't pay nothing. It's free, baby.
Hey, Tom, I have a question about advanced e-discovery.
Sure.
So it's my understanding, I've been told in the past, that in order to perform advanced e-discovery functions against, say, a mailbox, the target mailbox has to be licensed at the E5 level, or said a different way, if we had 1,200 users that had E3 mailboxes and 20 users, say our public records folks, who had E5 licenses, is it true that they would not be able to perform redaction or E5 capabilities against those 1,200 E3 level mailboxes?
Yeah, back in the old days when we bought Equivio, and then we've put about $1.5 billion into that solution every year for the past 3 years, and added things like the redaction capability. But when it was their product, they charged $284 per user per month. For each and every admin. Now they did it a different way. They charged $284 per month per admin. We dropped that price down to around like $6. But then we said to do a advanced e-discovery search or create an advanced e-discovery case, because generally you do have search discovery, you've got export capabilities. There are third-party products for exporting that search, but we covered every mailbox and then lowered that price from the number of people doing searches to all users to make sure that they were covered. So that was a licensing change. So whoever gave you that information is correct. You need to have every mailbox you're going to search has to be covered by a license for that user. Now that said, there is great content search. And content search is what 99% of my customers use for FOIA public records. And again, I can still, conduct a search and export the results and export a report, a manifest of that data. And I do have all of the same great search capabilities that I have here, like different conditions of sender, size, message type, participant, receiver, author, file type, blah, 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 keywords and keyword query language. All of that is within our standard e-discovery. And then, why are you not going up? Did I lose the meeting? You still seeing my screen?
Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah,
All
we
right.
can see it.
Good. All right, so that's content search. And then one step above that is our core e-discovery that everybody has access to. And then the one step above that is advanced e-discovery. And that's where those licenses do come into play.
Okay, so just to make sure that I heard what you just said, if we had public records folks with E5 licenses and they wanted to redact from emails that were E3 users, those E3 users would have to be upgraded to E5.
Correct. No, not upgraded to E5. They'd at least have to have an advanced e-discovery SKU applied to their account. Now, okay. So you can do some trade-offs here, right? So if you go to Teradact and go, okay, well, Teradact has this redaction, tokenization, these capabilities for $2 a user a month. I can throw Teradact in there for $2, but hey, we also have litigation cases and everything. Why not upgrade? And these prices are totally fictitious here, so don't ever take a price from me as worthwhile or correct. Carson can do a much better job of that. But that's what some of my customers do is say, well, this little point solution over here was going to cost me $2, and I can add this whole great big solution for just $3 more. So why wouldn't I go with the whole great big solution for $1 a user more? But you were absolutely right and correct, and whoever gave you that information was correct as well. Next question, or any more questions? Just looking over my notes here to make sure we did cover. Sent to manager, routing, assigned supervisor, reviewing, trimming. Oh, also, if I did do a search, and I can search for content inside of SharePoint, but if I search this or all documents and search this entire site here for Campbell, I am typing Campbell, and even though that this is a PDF, it is showing that Campbell, and these are PDFs as well. It's searching within the document for that content, but this is trimmed. If I don't have rights to this content, I'm not going to be presented with the content or in my search results. It's going to be trimmed. Normally I do the search for C1557 and don't find it, and then see that it does say C1137, but this was a Campbell document with Campbell on it. Any other Any other questions that I might be able to answer for you? Just one more reminder. All of these features, except for the Pterodact and the third party that I mentioned, and the advanced e-discovery, are already available to you.
Tom, this is Ryan Dolby. That was awesome. Thank you very much for your demonstration. You covered all the areas that I see on the list, and you did it great. Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. Anytime. I want to thank you guys all. I know this is a huge ask, the ask for your time, especially in these trying times. So, you know, thank you very much for making this time, walking through this demo. Do know we've got great training, enterprise training libraries out there, and wonderful, again, third parties to assist. You know, I don't know how often you collaborate with other, you know, state and local agencies, but I think, you know, the one thing that I've seen is, you know, states working with states, cities, and counties all working together. A lot of folks, you know, have solutions out there in SharePoint. They aren't our solution accelerators, but they've, you know, made them available. And you know, do collaborate pretty well with other Office 365 customers. And that is just one thing, if I can delay one more moment. Let's say that you come across a state that has, in fact, absolutely built out a solution that you would want to deploy or use. And of course, I didn't go to portal.office.com, the admin center here, and you will see, and this was supposed to be the big finish, and I totally blew it and forgot about it. But the admin capabilities, which again can be delegated to you as a services admin, you can have site collection access through SharePoint. One of the things I love, we just made this acquisition of Mover, and Mover does cloud migrations, and not only from these other third-party tools, but we acquired this last October and built it totally in. So let's say that Lori Prang at State of Michigan they've built out just some beautiful solutions, and she told me I could use their name. We tried to get them to present at Ignite. She's built out a beautiful solution. You want to adopt that solution, you can have her create a connector and from SharePoint, and you can connect to their SharePoint and migrate their site to your site. You need to be a SharePoint admin or global admin to do that, and so do they, and you know, have to allow that. But they could totally move their site to your tenant just like that. Pretty cool capability for folks that are collaborating and willing to share together. So again, with that, I'll finish, I promise. And I want to thank you again for taking the time and investigating this solution with us. Thanks.
Thanks, Tom.
Tom,
you're welcome.
Once again, thank you, and good luck with Megan Bowen.
Thank you. I think she'll continue to turn me down, so my joke is never going to come to fruition. But thanks.
Thank you, Tom.
You bet.
And a big thanks to Jonah for the original presentation. I know he's moving roles, but thanks, Jonah, for the original presentation as well.
Thank you, Jonah.
Thank you.